we've lost 3 or 4 starters.
Probably we are not where we wanted to be.
Has it been ideal? No.
It's not a case of just signing anybody. We need to make sure we sign the right people.
We still have 1, 2 or 3 positions.
These transfer windows can bring their challenges.
I have to say that we have been too passive, and if you ask me if I expected, of course not.
Oh my, hi, good evening, welcome along to the Transfer Show. That's a lot of unhappy managers, so it sounds like there's a lot of business that needs to be done before the window shuts. Mark McAdam is here to cheer everybody up. Now, Newcastle look like they're on the verge of signing Jacob Ramsey from Aston Villa. He's agreed a 5-year deal. Liverpool remain in talks over the Crystal Palace captain Mark Guehi, despite agreeing a fee for a centre-back from Italy. And could Jadon Sancho finally be on his way out of Old Trafford? A Serie A club has made a bid to sign him permanently. Right, Mark, a lot of managerial moans there. Does that point towards a lot of business between now and the deadline?
Without question, there's still a long way to go in this window. 18 days, we're going to be talking about transfers. It amazes me. Premier League clubs, Mike, have spent over £2 billion and they're still not happy. Now, it's fascinating to see managers, and I think you'd probably get managers that will say, I'm always unhappy. I always want one more. I always want a little bit more money. I really need to add that little something extra to my squad. And that's just not possible, particularly in this summer's window where we know that clubs are coming up against a lot of problematic issues. First of all, prices. They're sky high, higher than you've ever seen them. You know, players going for 50 and 60 million every single week. That is common practice at the moment. Remember, 5 years ago, that would have been for the elite players. Elite players now cost you over 100 million. Strikers, there's not many strikers available. They're going for between 70 and 80 million during this summer as well. And you've got clubs that are conscious about FFP and PSR, so they need to be a little bit careful. They need to make sure they sell players before they can buy players. So all of that in the mix is growing to frustration for so many managers. But still, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. Over £2 billion spent already.
All right, yeah, and looks like Newcastle might be spending a bit more. They've agreed a deal for Jacob Ramsey. Give us the details.
Yeah, it's been a good 24 hours for Eddie Howe. We know that this summer has been one of frustration with regards to some of their recruitment, but this is without question an exciting signing and someone with huge potential. We know the deal is worth 39 million plus 4 million in potential add-ons for the Aston Villa man. The deal was agreed this afternoon. It's been a little bit touch and go over the last 48 hours with both clubs negotiating on the price. He's flying into the northeast, literally as we speak, from the Midlands at the moment. He's agreed a 5-year deal with regards to what he'll sign at Newcastle United. And this is actually a long-term target. Newcastle United, under Eddie Howe and Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, never really went into the market and went, oh, we're short of a striker, we're short of a left-back, who's the best one available? They would have been tracking players for a number of years, and this has been the case with Jacob Ramsey. Eddie Howe has actually really admired the player for quite some time, and he's been scouted by Andy Howe, who does a lot of the recruitment at Newcastle, the likes of Sandro Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall. There's a number of players that have gone up to the northeast that have been watched by Andy Howe for a number of years, and he's the one that's doing the majority of the deals this summer. So he's done really well to negotiate with Aston Villa to get this deal over the line. He brings versatility, Mike, as well, which is key. All managers want players that can play in multiple positions. He can play down the left-hand side. He can play as a left 8. So he brings that option for Eddie Howe. And right now, you'd probably say Anthony Gordon will play as the false 9 because of the situation with Isak. So therefore, Jacob Ramsey may be going straight into that left-hand berth down the channel. So I think this is really good business. It's someone that wanted Newcastle as well. And I think that's key. When you've got a player like Anthony Elanga or like Aaron Ramsdale or like Malik Thiaw, who's got other options and says, no, I'm not interested in them. I want to go to Newcastle. I want to play for Eddie Howe and I want to improve under him. Right.
I want to throw another player into the mix who says he wants to go to Newcastle, Yoan Wissa. Are they going to get him?
Well, maybe, maybe not. It certainly feels like all of the noise that was surrounding Yoan Wissa going to Newcastle this time last week has gone a little bit quiet. There's obviously a domino effect in place here, which is affecting any potential deal. We know that Eddie Howe is a big admirer of Yoan Wissa. He's a player that he would like to take to the North East where possible. We understand that personal terms won't be an issue on this particular deal. However, the problem is Brentford won't sell unless they get the price that they're happy with. They don't want to sell because they've sold a lot of key players in those attacking areas. And of course, if they were to sanction a sale, they need to have someone in the building that they feel comfortable enough with so they can say, OK, we're not leaving ourselves short in this particular area. We're willing to let you go. We're willing to grant your wish to go to the North East. However, at the minute, it feels like any potential deal is far from happening. And we know there's been a lot of noise from Yoan Wissa's camp about whether he's going to train, whether he's going to play, whether he's going to be involved. And that was something that the manager, Keith Andrews, was asked about earlier on today. And he confirmed Wissa wouldn't be involved against Nottingham Forest.
As a head coach, I want Yoan in the building. I want him to be part of the first team squad. I see that moving forward, but obviously I'm very, and I keep saying this, I'm very understanding of his situation. But for Yoan on Sunday, he won't be involved.
So Keith Andrews, quite clear there, won't be involved this weekend. But as the clock ticks, will things change? We know that Eddie Howe would love to add him to that Newcastle United squad. But of course, it's always about the dominoes. And it feels like dominoes are in effect, particularly with these deals at the moment, more so than ever before.
We've got 6 minutes into this programme, and I'm now going to say the words. Alexander Isak, what's going on?
AI. What's going to happen with this man? I don't even think AI can predict what the outcome of this situation is going to be. I think one thing we can say for certain is that every day that passes whilst Alexander Isak is still a Newcastle United player, regardless if he's training on his own or with the first team or whether he's in the squad or not, would mean that he is closer to staying at Newcastle United. Their stance has always been the same. He's not for sale. And if we were to sell him, we're looking for £150 million. And therefore, under those circumstances, it's a very difficult deal to make happen. And when Newcastle United also have the stance of, well, even if someone were to bid £150 million right now, we'd still only say yes on the proviso of us having a top-class Champions League-ready striker in the building, signed up and ready to lead the line for us. So therefore, they were never going to sanction a sale unless they had someone in. We know that Benjamin Sesko was a player of interest. He was a player that potentially could fill that Alexander Isak void if he were to move on. However, he went to Manchester United. So Newcastle now back to the drawing board, looking at their options, reviewing the players that are available. But they will only sign someone who they feel is right for the football club, who is going to improve Newcastle United, who's going to be a player that can be developed by Eddie Howe, because that's the first thing he says. Any signing I make, can I improve them? Can I make them better? If the answer is no, he's not going to sign them. He has to sign players he wants to improve. And that would fit into the way they play, the style and the philosophy of that football club, and could cope with playing at the very highest level. This is a side that wants to get to the Champions League again and want to win silverware again. So therefore, they need players that reflect that. So I'd say right now, it looks unlikely. But of course, there is still a long way to go. And we know that Liverpool are still interested in the player.
Exactly. And when we talk in the 7, we're going to talk about Newcastle's window. Is it actually as bad as everybody says? But in the meantime, Liverpool, Mark Guehi, is it going to happen?
I would say, you put me round the spot with that question. I would say there's a possibility, but at the moment it feels unlikely. We know that they are in dialogue with Crystal Palace. We know that they like the player. We know that they are in the market to strengthen at centre-back. However, and we'll mention this in a little while, Giovanni Leone is coming in from Parma, so they have got one centre-back in. We know that Joe Gomez is coming back from injury as well. The key on this situation, Mike, is that Mark Guehi has 1 year left on his current Crystal Palace contract. And Steve Parish has always said, we will only sell players for the price that we feel is acceptable. Fair market value. We don't want to lose our captain as well, and he's not just a centre-back, he's a captain, he's a leader, he's a voice in the dressing room, he's the one that knits and gels everything together, so he's a key player to lose over the course of this summer. If the price was right, I'm pretty certain that Liverpool would say, yes, we want to sign Mark Guehi. However, the price isn't right at the moment. Crystal Palace can demand whatever they want.
It was 70 million last season, it's now 40 million. It's like the price is right, surely.
The problem as well, and whilst you're right, yeah, the price has come down because he's got 1 year left on his current contract, but that is still a big chunk of money for a player who only has 1 year left on his contract. To just flip the question, would Mark Guehi want to go to Liverpool? Yes, absolutely. Premier League champions, no question about it. Massive development in his career, massive progression. However, is he going to get the game time that he needs in a year that's crucial for him being on the plane to Canada, Mexico and the US for the World Cup in 2026? He's probably looking at the Liverpool situation going, Virgil van Dijk, Ibrahima Konate, just signed a boy from Parma, Joe Gomez has been around it. I've got to force myself into that team. And if I can't force myself into that defence that's been exceptional, won the Premier League title last year, am I going to get the game time and the minutes that I need to be a shoo-in to play for Thomas Tuchel? So it's one of those things. I understand it to be a situation where Crystal Palace won't sell Eberechi Eze and Mark Guehi in this summer's window. They don't want to lose both of them during the course of this summer. And my concern is that Crystal Palace are looking at this saying we need to be stronger, we don't want to be weaker. Is Spurs' need for Eze greater than Liverpool's need for Guehi?
Has Arne Slot said anything about Guehi today?
Well, Arne Slot was speaking to the media today. Of course, one of the questions he gets asked is what's happening, players in, players out, and all that sort of stuff. So it's always interesting to get his perspective. He's normally quite coy on these situations. Now, the Liverpool boss has refused to give his opinion on Mark Guehi. That's following Crystal Palace's Community Shield win over Liverpool at the weekend.
He's not our player, and unfortunately he was the captain of the team where we lost against last Sunday. So, no, if you want to have any talks about him, you should go to Palace, to Glasner, and ask him his opinion about him.
Can never get enough of Arne Slot, that's what I say. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk Ruben Amorim. Looks like he's close to selling one of his players. We'll tell you which one next and what that means for Manchester United. And they lost in the Super Cup final last night. What does Thomas Frank need for his Spurs side as he goes into his first season at the club? We'll talk about their transfer news as well next. See you in a moment. Hi, welcome back to the Transfer Show. Right, what should we call them? We're going to call them the Fire Sale 5. Right, Mark? Developments on Jadon Sancho today. What's happened?
Yeah, significant developments with regards to this one. We know that Manchester United want to get rid of these 5 players. Jadon Sancho into the last year of his Old Trafford contract, and there has been an offer lodged to Manchester United from Serie A side, Roma. Manchester United are currently considering the offer and deciding what they want to do. We know that there is interest from Borussia Dortmund as well, and we know that Jadon Sancho is on big money, so therefore, A, they want to get rid of him, they want to try and recoup back as much as they possibly can. He's on big wages as well, so that is one of the issues there. But yeah, that's the latest with regards to Jadon Sancho.
And what about the others? Any movement on any of the other 4?
No, Anthony, £80 million worth of investment, still at Manchester United. Again, another one on big wages, on loan at Real Betis. No formal offers as of yet. No other clubs really at the table, but Real Betis would love to take him. However, unfortunately, they can't afford him at the moment. We know that Rasmus Højlund, another player of interest to a number of Serie A clubs, AC Milan are the ones at the minute that are closest to potentially getting a deal done. His stance, I want to stay at Old Trafford, I want to play, I want to prove myself, and I want to get myself in that team. But at the minute, still talks ongoing. Looks like a lack of minutes is going to be his issue, so he's almost being forced, out of the club. Garnacho, Chelsea, it feels like it's only a matter of time before this one happens, but Chelsea just have to be a little bit clever with how much they spend compared to how much they receive and sell players on for. But we know that the talks continue. Tyrell Malacia, unfortunately, Tyrell Malacia fans, I can't say anything positive. There will be interest. It'll end up going somewhere, but at the minute, we don't know of anyone at the table.
I'm just hearing something from the producer that Højlund is open to a move to Milan now. We're just hearing that. Sky Italy reporting that, which is interesting.
Yeah,
so well, he's read the runes.
He's read the room. He's not going to get any game time. When you don't play minutes, for example, Jack Grealish not going to the Club World Cup for Man City, that's them basically saying, thanks, Jack, but we don't want you. Go and explore your options. Same for him. Lack of game time over the course of pre-season, and maybe recently he's decided, look, I just need to go and play games. That's going to be key.
Right, I want to rattle through this. You touched on this earlier. Let's talk Tottenham Hotspur. Eza to Spurs, yes or no?
I think this is a deal that could happen. I think this is a deal that could potentially happen. We know that Arsenal were interested at the start of the window, so, that's a situation that I feel like is getting a little bit cooler now, whereas Spurs have suffered with injuries. They want to recruit. We know they want a 10. We know they want a winger. We know they want a defender. And, of course, this man can play in 2 of those roles, which makes it a lot more appealing. However, he has a release clause, 60 million plus 8 million in potential add-ons. Now, whilst that is quite heavy, maybe, it's still market value for some of the players that have gone over the course of this summer. We know that they are very much still interested in Eberechi Eza, and we know that the dialogue continues. However, maybe Spurs could say, look, let's have a look at this release clause. Can we just restructure it? Can we just talk about it? Can we get more favourable payment terms up front to enable us to get maybe a slightly different price to make this deal happen? I could see him ending up in North London and the white half of North London. So, one to keep an eye on. We also know that they're interested in Manchester City's Savinho, but he cost City £30 million 12 months ago. So any potential fee is going to be, 60, 70? They're not going to let him go on the cheap, and they don't want to sell him. So that's the situation there. But we know that Thomas Frank would love to make some additions over the course of the next few weeks.
All right, let's get on to Bournemouth. I know you love talking Bournemouth. Outgoing, Sinisterra, another one going out the door?
Yeah, he's a player that's probably not worked out, unfortunately. Game time been restricted, has a few injuries as well, which has been a real frustration for Andoni Iraola and the hierarchy at Bournemouth, because he's a great lad, trains hard. He's been exceptional at times when he's been fit and played his part in brilliant moments during games. However, he's going on loan. At the minute, it feels like it's a straight own. I know that over the course of the weekend, they're going to discuss obligations and options. He's going to Brazil. Cruzeiro are interested in him. He's going to be going there. But any more details on that, we're just waiting to find out. I know of another player that you want to talk about, Dango Ouattara. Hopefully we'll have some more details about him over the course of the next couple of hours or so. Andoni Iraola was speaking earlier on today when he met the media, and he still isn't sure if Dango Ouattara will be able to be a part of the squad for their opener against Liverpool tomorrow night.
Dango is going to train with us today. He's here, he's in the building, but it's true that I don't know what's going to happen. We are going day by day, and I will ask with the club if he can play tomorrow and he can travel, and we are in this kind of situations. I think every team will be in this kind of situations with players leaving, players arriving. We are moving day by day, basically, and we will continue for these next 2 weeks. We will continue like this.
Hopefully we'll have an update on the Dango Ouattara situation over the course of the next couple of hours or so. But I know Bournemouth fans saying, Mike, come on, Mark, give me some positive news. 2 players they are interested in. Amin Adli, Leverkusen winger, very highly rated. Number of Premier League sides have watched him. We know that discussions continue. However, Leverkusen's initial asking price was steep, and Bournemouth said, actually, we're not going to go to those figures. However, I think Leverkusen's stance has just softened ever so slightly. So therefore, it's opened the door for Bournemouth to say, OK, let's try and have a conversation. He's a player that they very much would like to try and sign this summer if they could. Another player of interest, Dario Osorio from Midtjylland. Young, tricky winger, loads in the box. He'd be one for the future, but certainly could be involved at the minute. So 2 players that are very much on Bournemouth's radar.
OK, I don't think you've actually got the Bournemouth fans on side there just yet, because they're having a tough window.
7 till 8, I'll get you on side.
Right, OK, Fulham, Marco Silva, raging at their lack of business. Are they going to get busy?
Well, he'll be hoping so. He'll be desperate for them to sign players. Fulham are probably one of those clubs that have just been in the middle run of Premier League sides that are finding it really difficult to recruit, because ultimately they have to wait for the big boys to do all of their signings. And then that will trigger other players being released and able to be let go from their particular clubs. So you see the clubs towards the bottom of the Premier League that have been really active, the clubs near the top been really active. That middle bunch are finding it really tough, and that's where you've seen all those frustrations that we started the show with. Fulham, willing to pay a club record fee to sign the Shakhtar Donetsk winger, Kevin. Now, obviously, their record at the moment is Emil Smith-Rowe at £34 million. So, again, this would be a sizable outlay for Fulham, a player that they're very much interested in signing him. However, Shakhtar's sort of stance is, we only signed him 18 months ago and we paid €15 million for him. So we actually want to sell him with a huge profit, which would probably be €45-50 million, particularly when you look at wingers that have moved over the course of this summer. So, yeah, that's the situation with Marco Silva. You understand his frustrations. They'd absolutely love to sign Kevin, but at the minute there's been no breakthrough in the deal. They're going to have to get the chequebook out to get the player.
And what about Muniz? What's the latest on him?
Yeah, a lot of interest in him from a number of sides, but at the minute it feels like he potentially could be staying in West London. However, we do know that there are teams interested in Europe. So therefore, it's one of those. It might be 1 in, 1 out for Fulham, which would frustrate the manager. However, nothing concrete at this moment in time.
I mentioned this earlier. I'm going to talk Newcastle with you again. Lots of people are saying they've had the worst window ever. They're having a terrible time. But actually, are they?
Well, the question I would pose to people that say Newcastle have had a terrible summer would be, is their starting 11 stronger now than it was on the last game of the season last season? Bearing in mind, Alexander Isak is still at the club. You'd have to say Anthony Elanga will go in on the right-hand side, Jacob Ramsey on the left-hand side, Anthony Gordon in there. You look at their midfield, really strong. They've got an excellent goalkeeper in Aaron Ramsdale. They've got an AC Milan defender who the manager didn't want to lose, playing at centre-back. So I would say Eddie Howe's got a stronger starting 11 now than he did at the end of the season. So therefore, technically, they're actually in better shape than they were last season.
Yes. You're the first person I've heard say that, and it's a great point.
They've missed out on some players, but I think they'll be stronger at the end of the window.
Mark, thanks very much. Mark is back at 7 o'clock when we've got Asmir Begovic as our guest. We're going to talk Donnarumma with him, that's for sure. Coming up next, though, in the Sports Centre, the Premier League is back. We're going to hear from the Champions boss, Arne Slot. See you in a moment.